The massive halls of the Galactic Council buzzed with angry voices. Representatives from 12 different alien worlds sat in their floating chairs, all talking at once. Their strange faces showed the same emotion, fear mixed with anger. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Kieran, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice cut through the noise like a sharp blade. "The humans must be stopped," Kieran said, his words echoing in the vast chamber. "They have gone too far this time." The other aliens nodded their heads. Some had tentacles instead of hair, others had scales instead of skin, but they all agreed on one thing: humanity was becoming a problem. For 3 years, humans had been spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. They built colonies on planets that the Council had marked as forbidden zones. They mined asteroids that belonged to other species. They traded with worlds that the Council had banned from contact. Worst of all, they did it all with a smile and a friendly wave. "We gave them their little solar system," growled General Vex, a creature that looked like a walking mountain of rock. "We told them to stay there and be happy. But did they listen? No. They built ships and flew everywhere. Their technology grows too fast," added Commander Yill, whose skin changed colors when she was angry. Right now she was bright red. Last year their ships could barely leave their home planet. Now they have weapons that can crack moons in half. Kieran raised all 4 of his arms for silence. The chamber grew quiet. "The humans think they can ignore our rules. They think they are special. Today we will show them how wrong they are." Far away from the council chambers, Captain Han-Sol Kim stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiance. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and gray hair. His uniform was neat and clean, but his hands were rough from years of hard work. He had been born on Earth, but space was his home now. The communication screen in front of him flickered to life. A blue face with 4 arms appeared on the screen. It was Ambassador Kieran, and he did not look happy. "Captain Kim," Kieran said in perfect English, "I bring a message from the Galactic Council. Your species has 1 month to withdraw from all colonies beyond your home system. Remove your people from the 23 worlds you have infected with your presence. Return to your small corner of space and stay there." Han-Sol listened without moving. His crew gathered around him, their faces worried. They had heard stories about the Galactic Council. 12 different alien races, each with fleets of warships that could destroy entire planets. When the Council spoke, smart people listened. "What happens if we refuse?" Han-Sol asked calmly. Kieran's forearms spread wide in what might have been a smile. "No species has ever survived direct confrontation with the Council's combined fleets, Captain. We have destroyed civilizations that were older and stronger than yours. We have turned proud worlds into space dust. We have made entire species extinct with a word." The screen went dark. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Han-Sol's communications officer, a young woman named Lee Soo-jin, looked at her captain with worried eyes. "Sir, what do we tell Earth Command?" she asked. Han-Sol turned to look out at the stars through the big window of his bridge. Out there, millions of humans lived and worked on the colony worlds. They had farms and cities, schools and hospitals. Children played in parks under alien suns. Families had built new lives on worlds that had never seen human footsteps before. "Send this message to Admiral Yu-jin Park on Earth," Han-Sol said quietly. "Tell her the Council wants us to abandon our colonies. Tell her they threaten to destroy us if we refuse." "And what should I tell her our answer is, sir?" Soo-jin asked. Han-Sol was quiet for a moment. He thought about his daughter, who lived on New Geneva Colony with her husband and 2 children. He thought about the farmers on Kepler Prime who had turned a dead world into a garden. He thought about the miners on Tau Station who sent metals back to Earth so people could build better lives. "Tell Admiral Park that humanity respectfully declines," he said. On Earth, in the deep underground command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Yu-jin Park received the message. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She had fought pirates in the outer systems and rebels in the colonies. She had never backed down from a fight in her life. Around the table sat the leaders of humanity's military forces. General Kwon Tae-ho commanded the army. Admiral Shin Mi-ra controlled the space fleet. Colonel Park Dong-min ran the special forces. They all looked at Yu-jin and waited for her to speak. "So," Yu-jin said, her voice calm as still water, "the aliens think they can threaten us. They think we will run away like scared children. They think we will abandon our people and hide in our home system. The numbers are not good," General Kwon said carefully. Our intelligence reports say the Council has millions of ships. We have thousands. Each of their species is older than us and has better technology. They have conquered other civilizations before, Admiral Shin added. The reports we have are disturbing. They do not show mercy to those who resist them. Yujin stood up and walked to the big wall screen that showed the galaxy. Tiny blue dots marked human colonies scattered across hundreds of light years. Each dot represented millions of lives, dreams, and hopes. Let me tell you something about humans, Yujin said, still looking at the screen. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the smartest. We do not have the best technology or the biggest ships. She turned to face the others. Her eyes were hard as diamonds. But we are the only species that has ever looked at impossible odds and said, "Hold my coffee and watch this." We are the only species that treats surrender as a foreign word. We are the only species that gets more dangerous when you threaten our families. The room was silent. Everyone knew what was coming next. Send word to all fleet commanders, Yujin continued. Tell them to prepare for war. Tell them the Council has made their choice, and now we will show them why no one has ever survived after fighting humans. The message went out across human space in coded transmissions. From the outer colonies to the home fleet, from the merchant ships to the mining stations, humanity began to prepare for the fight of their lives. In the cold depths of space, Captain Hansel Kim smiled grimly as he read his new orders. The die was cast. The aliens thought they knew what they were dealing with. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The greatest war in galactic history was about to begin. The stars around Kepler Prime looked different when 50,000 alien ships arrived. They came in perfect formations, like deadly metal flowers blooming in the darkness of space. Each ship was huge, some as large as cities back on Earth. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals, and their weapons glowed with colors that had no names. Fleet Commander Thekfor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. He was a Zephyrian, tall and thin with silver skin and eyes like black holes. He had commanded fleets for over 200 years. He had conquered 17 different worlds for the Galactic Council. This human colony would be number 18. Report, Thekfor commanded in his cold voice. 50,000 ships ready for battle, Commander, his aide replied. 4 different species fleets all under your command. The humans have only 800 ships defending this world. Thekfor nodded. The numbers were exactly what he expected. Humans were young and foolish. They had spread too far too fast. Now they would pay the price for their arrogance. What do we know about their commander? He asked. Captain Sora Choi, the aide said, reading from a data screen. Age 32. Born on Earth. Trained at their Mars Naval Academy. She has commanded the Kepler Defense Fleet for 2 years. No major battles on her record. Thekfor almost smiled. A young human female with no real battle experience, commanding a tiny fleet against the might of the Council. This would be over quickly. The humans would see their hopeless situation and surrender. Then the real work of removing them from Council space could begin. Open a communication channel to the human commander, Thekfor ordered. The screen flickered and showed a human face. Captain Sora Choi looked very young to Thekfor's ancient eyes. She had short black hair and dark eyes that seemed calm despite the impossible situation she faced. Behind her, he could see the bridge of her ship. It looked small and cramped compared to his vast command center. Captain Choi, Thekfor said in his most commanding voice. I am Fleet Commander Thekfor of the Galactic Council. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now and your people will be treated with mercy. Sora looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised him. She smiled. Commander Thekfor, she said politely, thank you for the offer, but I think we'll pass. Kepler Prime is our home now. We're not leaving. Thekfor felt a flicker of annoyance. Captain, you have 800 ships. I have 50,000. Your defeat is certain. Do not throw away lives for nothing. You're right about the numbers, Sora agreed. But you made one mistake in your math. What mistake? Thekfor asked, genuinely curious. Sora's smile got wider. You assumed that we're planning to survive this fight. The communication cut off. Thekfor stared at the blank screen for a moment. What did that mean? Of course they were planning to survive. Every intelligent species wanted to survive. That was the most basic rule of life in the galaxy. Begin the attack, he ordered. Standard formation. We will show them what happens to those who defy the Council. The alien fleet moved forward in perfect order. Their ships formed neat lines, their weapons charged and ready. They had done this many times before. It was always the same. The enemy would see their power and give up, or they would fight for a few minutes before being destroyed. But the human ships did not move the way HFY expected. Instead of forming their own battle lines, they scattered like leaves in the wind. Some flew toward the asteroid belt. Others dove toward the planet. A few groups flew directly at the alien fleet, their weapons already firing. "What are they doing?" HFY demanded. "This is not how space battles work. Where is their formation?" On her bridge, Captain Sora Choi watched her plan unfold. She had studied every battle the Council had ever fought. She knew exactly how they expected enemies to behave. That was why she was going to do everything differently. "Group Alpha, begin the Hornet's dance," she ordered into her communicator. "Group Beta, execute Angry Wasp formation. All ships, remember, we're not trying to win. We're trying to teach them a lesson." Lieutenant Commander Jae-woo Nam led Group Alpha in his fighter squadron. He was only 25 years old, but he had trained for this moment his entire life. His ships were small and fast, built for speed rather than armor. They flew straight into the middle of the alien formation, weaving between the massive enemy vessels like angry insects. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but their big guns could not track targets that moved so quickly and unpredictably. Jae-woo's fighters fired at everything they could reach, targeting engines and weapon systems rather than trying to destroy entire ships. They were like mosquitoes attacking elephants, but mosquitoes with explosive bites. "This is insane," breathed Jae-woo's wingman, Lieutenant Kim Bo-ram. "We're flying suicide runs." "That's the point," Jae-woo replied, spinning his ship around an alien cruiser and firing at its communication array. "They expect us to fight like them. Instead, we fight like humans." Half of Jae-woo's squadron died in the first 10 minutes, but they took 40 alien ships with them and damaged hundreds more. The alien formation began to break apart as ships tried to avoid the crazy human fighters that seemed to appear everywhere at once. Meanwhile, Captain Choi's main fleet had split into small groups that hit the aliens from 6 different directions. Her ships were smaller and weaker, but they moved in ways that made no sense to alien military minds. They would appear, fire everything they had, then disappear behind planets or asteroids before the enemy could respond. The UES Retribution, commanded by Captain Lee Hyun-soo, took a direct hit from an alien dreadnought. The ship's hull cracked open like an egg, and emergency lights flashed red throughout the vessel. "Abandon ship," someone shouted over the intercom. Captain Lee looked at the massive alien ship that had just nearly destroyed his vessel. It was 10 times larger than his ship and carried enough weapons to level a city. He made a decision that would be remembered for centuries. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced calmly. "We're not abandoning ship. We're delivering it. Special delivery to our friends out there." He ordered his crew to overload the ship's reactor, while he pointed the dying vessel directly at the alien flagship. The Retribution accelerated toward the enemy, its hull glowing white-hot as the reactor built up to critical levels. The alien commander of the dreadnought realized what was happening and tried to move his massive ship out of the way. But the Retribution was too close and too fast. The explosion when it hit was visible from 3 star systems away. The alien flagship died in a ball of nuclear fire, taking 40 other ships with it in a chain reaction of exploding fuel and ammunition. The blast was so bright that it temporarily blinded sensors on both sides of the battle. When the light faded, 13,000 alien ships were retreating in disorder. 37,000 ships had been destroyed or damaged too badly to fight. The human fleet was almost gone, but they had achieved something impossible. On his command ship, HFY stared at the tactical display in shock. His perfect formation was scattered across half the star system. Ships that had served the Council for centuries were now twisted metal and floating debris. The humans had lost almost their entire fleet, but they had cost him more ships than he had lost in 200 years of warfare. "How?" he whispered. "How did they do this?" His aide, barely alive after their ship took damage, looked at him with wide eyes. "Sir, they didn't fight to win. They fought to hurt us as much as possible before they died. I've never seen anything like it." In the wreckage of her command ship, Captain Sora Choi smiled as she looked at the tactical display one last time. Most of her fleet was gone, but the alien invasion force was broken. More importantly, they had sent a message that would travel to every corner of the galaxy. Her final transmission was broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Choi to any humans listening. Kepler Prime still stands. The aliens can be beaten. They bleed just like anyone else. Tell Admiral Park that the lesson has been delivered. As rescue ships from the remaining human vessels picked up survivors, the alien fleet limped away from Kepler Prime. They had won the battle, but it felt like a defeat. For the first time in Council history, a victory had cost more than the prize was worth. In the command centers of 12 different alien worlds, military leaders received the reports from Kepler Prime with growing unease. The humans had fought like no species they had ever encountered. They had turned defeat into a weapon and used their own destruction as a tool of war. The whispers began that day, spreading through alien fleets across the galaxy. The humans fight like demons. They do not fear death. They welcome it if it means hurting their enemies. The Galactic Council had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, they had learned something that would haunt their dreams. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something else entirely. The news from Kepler Prime spread through the Galactic Council like poison in water. In the great halls where 12 alien species made decisions for half the galaxy, angry voices filled the air. War Marshal Velthar, the most feared military commander in Council history, stood before the assembled leaders with fire in his eyes. Velthar was a Chronari, a species that looked like walking nightmares made of black metal and red light. He was 12 feet tall and had conquered 17 different civilizations. His voice sounded like grinding steel when he spoke. "The humans have made fools of us," he growled. "A tiny defense force destroyed 37,000 of our ships. Our enemies across the galaxy are laughing at us. Our own people are asking how we could fail so badly." Ambassador Kieran, his blue skin pale with worry, nodded his agreement. "The humans must pay for this insult. We cannot let other species think they can resist the Council. Then we will show them what real power looks like," Velthar declared. "I will personally lead the largest fleet in galactic history to Earth itself. We will not just defeat the humans, we will erase them from existence." Within days, ships began gathering from across Council space, 300,000 warships, representing the combined might of 12 advanced civilizations. Each vessel carried weapons that could crack planets. Together, they formed a fleet that could destroy entire star systems. The fleet was so large that it took 3 days just to count all the ships. Space around the Council's main military base looked like a metal forest, with vessels stretching from one horizon to another. War Marshal Velthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Galaxy's End, and felt satisfaction for the first time since Kepler Prime. "The humans wanted to fight," he said to his officers. "Now they will face a war fleet so large that their entire species could not build enough ships to match even 1/10 of our power." But while the aliens gathered their massive force, Admiral Eugene Park had not been idle. In the months since Kepler Prime, every human ship, station, and settlement in the solar system had been turned into a weapon of war. Captain Dong Hyun Lee commanded the asteroid belt defenses. He was an engineer before he became a soldier, and he thought like an engineer. Every piece of space rock between Mars and Jupiter had been hollowed out and filled with weapons, sensors, or explosive surprises. The belt that had once been just floating debris was now a maze of hidden fortresses. "How many gun platforms do we have operational?" Admiral Park asked during their final planning meeting. 40,000 major installations, Captain Lee reported, plus about 2 million smaller automated weapons. "Every asteroid bigger than a house has something nasty hiding inside it." Commander Myung-shin, who controlled the outer planet defenses, smiled grimly. "The moons of Jupiter and Saturn are ready too. We've turned them into the biggest guns in human history. Some of them are so powerful they'll only be able to fire once before they melt. But that one shot will be worth it." Admiral Park looked at the tactical display showing their solar system. Earth sat at the center like a blue jewel, surrounded by rings of defensive positions that stretched from Mercury to Pluto. It looked impressive, but she knew the numbers. 300,000 alien ships against their few thousand defenders. The odds were impossible. "Remember," she told her commanders, "we're not trying to win a traditional battle. We're trying to make victory so expensive that the galaxy will remember the price forever. Every alien ship that enters this system needs to pay in blood for every mile they advance." The alien fleet arrived at Neptune's orbit like a dark tide covering the stars. War Marshal Velthar expected to sweep through the outer planets in hours and reach Earth within days. His ships formed perfect attack formations. their weapons charged and ready to destroy anything that stood in their way. But the humans had learned from Kepler Prime. They knew they could not match alien firepower, so they had turned the solar system itself into a weapon. The first surprise came at Neptune. The ice giant looked empty and undefended, so Veltar's advance ships approached carelessly. That was when Captain Park Sang-woo activated the planet's hidden defenses. The humans had spent months installing massive engines on Neptune's largest moon. When the alien ships came close, the moon suddenly changed course and rammed directly into the fleet's center. The impact destroyed 3,000 ships instantly and scattered the alien formation like leaves in a hurricane. Impossible, Veltar breathed as he watched the tactical display. They weaponized an entire moon. "Sir, we're receiving reports from the advanced squadrons," his aide reported with shaking voice. "The Uranus system is gone, sir." "What do you mean, gone?" Veltar demanded. "The humans somehow destabilized the planet's core. When our ships entered the system, Uranus exploded. The blast destroyed everything within 10 million miles. We lost 20,000 ships." Veltar felt something he had not experienced in centuries: doubt. No species had ever used planets as weapons before. It was insane, impossible, and completely against every rule of civilized warfare. But the humans were just getting started. At the Jupiter system, Sergeant Taeho Yoon waited on his weapons platform built inside Ganymede. He was a simple man from Earth's countryside who had joined the military to see the galaxy. Now he found himself manning the largest gun ever built by human hands. The weapon could fire exactly once. The energy required would melt the moon's core and probably kill everyone on the station. But that single shot would punch through any armor ever made. Taeho watched through his scope as alien dreadnoughts approached. Each ship was the size of a city, carrying enough firepower to devastate worlds. His hands were steady on the controls as he waited for them to get close enough. "Come on, you ugly monsters," he whispered. "Just a little closer." When the lead dreadnought was close enough for him to see the markings on its hull, Taeho pulled the trigger. The gun fired with the power of a small star, sending a beam of pure energy that cut through space like a sword of light. The beam punched through 7 alien ships in a perfect line, destroying each one completely. The backblast from the weapon cracked Ganymede in half and killed everyone on the station. But Taeho's sacrifice had eliminated an entire battle group. Similar scenes played out across the solar system. Captain Jin Soo-on's squadron waited hidden in Saturn's rings until alien ships flew overhead, then emerged like sharks from dark water. Major Seo Jin Yang's ground forces on Mars had turned the planet into a fortress, covered with weapons that could shoot down ships in orbit. Every mile the aliens advanced cost them thousands of ships. They had expected easy victory, and found instead a grinding nightmare where every asteroid might hide a bomb, every moon might be a gun, and every planet might explode when they got close. By the time the alien fleet reached Mars, they had lost over 100,000 ships. The survivors were exhausted, confused, and beginning to fear an enemy that fought with tactics they could not understand. War Marshal Veltar stood on his damaged bridge and stared at Earth hanging in space before him. The blue planet looked peaceful and defenseless, but he knew better now. The humans had made their entire star system into a trap, and he had walked right into it. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider. The losses have been severe." Veltar turned to look at the young officer. His red eyes burned with ancient pride and growing fear. "We cannot retreat. If we fail here, the Council will never recover. Every species in the galaxy will think they can resist us. But, sir, the humans are not fighting like any enemy we've ever faced. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. They turn their own worlds into weapons. They fight as if death means nothing to them." Veltar was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke words that would echo through galactic history. "Send word to all fleet commanders. We advance on Earth. Whatever the cost, the humans must be destroyed. If we fail, the Council falls with us." The surviving alien fleet, now reduced to less than 200,000 ships, began its final approach to humanity's homeworld. Behind them, the wreckage of their dead ships formed a trail of metal and shattered dreams that stretched from Neptune to Mars. On Earth, Admiral Park watched the enemy approach and smiled grimly. The real battle was about to begin. The aliens thought they had seen human determination in the outer system. They had no idea what waited for them at humanity's birth world. The greatest battle in the history of both species was about to unfold in the space around the small blue planet where humans had first learned to dream of the stars. Deep in the hidden shipyards of Luna, Chief Engineer In-Ho Bay worked with desperate energy. Around him, thousands of human workers built ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These were not beautiful vessels designed to explore the stars. These were weapons built for one purpose: to make alien fleets pay the highest price possible for every victory. In-Ho had been building starships for 20 years, but these new vessels challenged everything he knew about engineering. Human hulls were welded to alien energy cores torn from captured ships, Zephyrian shield generators powered by modified human reactors, Chronari weapons systems controlled by human computers. The ships looked like metal nightmares, but they worked. "How many do we have ready?" Admiral Park asked as she toured the construction yards. 2,000 completed, Admiral," In-Ho reported, wiping grease from his hands. "Each one is unique. We're using every piece of alien technology we can get our hands on." Admiral Park nodded as she looked at the strange vessels. They were not pretty, but she could see the genius in their design. The aliens expected to fight ships built with human technology. These hybrid monsters would surprise them. "What about the special project?" she asked quietly. In-Ho's eyes brightened. "The Persistence is ready, Admiral. Captain Quan should be proud to command her. She's got the heart of a human destroyer, the weapons of a Chronari battlecruiser, and the shields of a Zephyrian dreadnought. She's the ugliest ship in space, but she'll punch through anything the aliens can throw at her." Captain Sujin Quan had been waiting for this moment. She stood on the bridge of the UES Persistence and felt the ship's power humming through the deck plates beneath her feet. The vessel was a patchwork of different technologies held together by human stubbornness and engineering skill. "All systems ready, Captain," reported her chief engineer, Lieutenant Commander Park Min-Ho. "The alien power core is running at 100%. The hybrid weapons are charged and ready. The patchwork armor is holding together." Sujin looked through the main screen at the approaching alien fleet. 200,000 ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. But she was not afraid. She had learned something at Kepler Prime that the aliens still did not understand. Humans did not need better ships to win. They just needed to be more willing to lose everything. "Take us into the middle of their formation," she ordered. "Let's see how they like fighting a ship that doesn't play by their rules." The Persistence accelerated toward the alien fleet like a missile aimed at the heart of their formation. Behind her came 1,000 other hybrid vessels, each one crewed by humans who had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. War Marshal Velthar watched the human ships approach with growing confusion. They were not forming battle lines or trying to protect their home planet. Instead, they were flying directly at his fleet like they wanted to ram his ships. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "This is not military strategy. This is insanity." His tactical officer, a nervous Zephyrian named Kexilon, studied the sensor readings with shaking hands. "Sir, the human ships are strange. They're built from our technology but modified in ways that make no sense. Some of them have power cores that should not be possible." The first human ship to reach the alien formation was the UES Defiant, commanded by Captain Lee Seung-ho. His ship was built around a Chronari power core that had been overcharged beyond safe limits. When alien weapons hit his vessel, instead of exploding, the ship absorbed the energy and fed it back into its own weapons. "All power to forward guns," Captain Lee ordered as enemy fire pounded his shields. "Let's show them what happens when they shoot at us." The Defiant's weapons fired with 3 times normal power, the energy borrowed from the alien attacks that were trying to destroy it. The blast cut through 5 enemy ships like a knife through paper. Then Captain Lee did something that made alien commanders across the fleet freeze in terror. He laughed. "Did you see that, you monsters?" he broadcast on all frequencies. "You just powered our guns for us. Thank you for the ammunition." Similar scenes played out across the battle zone. Human ships built with alien technology used that same technology in ways its creators never imagined. Captain Yoon Jaemin's ship had engines that could change direction instantly, making it impossible to target. Captain Cho Hee-won's vessel could become invisible to sensors, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. But the most terrifying was Captain Sujin Kwan's Persistence. Her ship carved through the alien fleet like a shark through a school of fish. Enemy weapons that should have destroyed her barely scratched her hybrid armor. Her guns, powered by 3 different types of alien energy, could punch through any defense. Impossible. War Marshal Velthar whispered as he watched a single human ship destroy an entire squadron of his vessels. How are they doing this? Sir, his aide reported with terror in his voice. The human ships are not just using our technology. They're using it better than we do. They've improved our own weapons and made them more powerful. The battle raged for hours. The aliens had more ships, but the humans had turned their enemy's own technology against them. Every alien weapon that missed its target was absorbed by human ships and fired back. Every alien defense was bypassed by human vessels that had been built specifically to counter those defenses. Captain Quan Doyon commanded the UES Vengeance from the bridge of a ship that should not have been able to fly. Her vessel was held together with human determination and alien technology that had been pushed beyond its limits. Her crew was exhausted, her ship was damaged, but they kept fighting. Captain, her weapons officer called out, we're running low on ammunition. Then we'll use theirs, Doyon replied calmly. She pointed at a Chronari cruiser that was firing at a damaged human vessel. Ram that ship. When we hit, overload the reactor. Let's see how they like being on the receiving end of their own explosion. The Vengeance accelerated toward the alien cruiser at full speed. The enemy ship tried to move away, but it was too large and slow. When the ships collided, the explosion lit up half the solar system. Both vessels died in the blast, but the chain reaction destroyed 12 more alien ships. On Earth, people watched the battle in the skies above their world with a mixture of pride and terror. They could see the flashes of weapons fire and explosions that marked where their defenders were fighting impossible odds. Children pointed at the lights and asked their parents if the good guys were winning. Admiral Park stood in her command center and watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Her hybrid fleet was being destroyed, but they were taking 3 alien ships for every human vessel lost. The numbers were still against them, but the mathematics of war were changing. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the alien commander. Put him on screen, Admiral Park ordered. War Marshal Velthar appeared on the display. The proud alien warrior looked tired and confused. His perfect formation had been shattered by human ships that fought with no regard for their own survival. Admiral Park, he said in his grinding voice, I offer you terms. Surrender now and your people will be treated with honor. Continue this fight, and I will be forced to destroy your entire planet. Admiral Park looked at the alien commander for a long moment. Behind her, the tactical display showed the positions of both fleets. The aliens still outnumbered her ships 50-1, but those odds were getting better every minute. Marshal Velthar, she said calmly, I have a counteroffer. Leave our system now, and we'll let you keep the ships you have left. Continue this attack and we'll show you what humans do when you threaten our families. Velthar's eyes flared with anger. You are beaten, human. You have a few thousand ships left. I have nearly 200,000. Your defeat is certain. Admiral Park smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. You're right about one thing, Marshal. Your defeat is certain. You just don't know it yet. She cut the transmission and turned to her staff. Signal all remaining ships. Begin Phase 2. It's time to show them what the human war machine can really do. Across the solar system, hidden factories and shipyards that had been quiet during the battle suddenly roared to life. In asteroid belts and on hidden moons, assembly lines that had been working in secret for months began launching new ships. These were not the hybrid monsters that had fought the first battle. These were pure human vessels, built with everything humanity had learned about war in the past year. They were faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything humans had ever created before. The alien fleet, exhausted from hours of battle, suddenly found themselves facing fresh human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. The new ships attacked with precision and fury, targeting the alien fleet's damaged vessels and disrupting their formations. War Marshal Velthar watched in growing horror as his tactical advantage melted away like ice in fire. The humans had not just prepared for one battle. They had prepared for a war of attrition that they were determined to win no matter the cost. For the first time in his long military career, the proud Chronari warrior began to understand that he might not win this fight. The battle around Earth had lasted 3 days when Admiral Eugene Park made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. Standing in her command center, surrounded by tactical displays showing the wreckage of 2 great fleets, she turned to her officers with eyes that burned like cold fire. Gentlemen, ladies, she said quietly, the aliens made a mistake. They brought their war to our home. Now we're going to take our war to theirs. Captain Wu Jin Han had been waiting for this moment. His ship, the UES Retribution, was loaded with enough firepower to level a small moon. But more importantly, it carried something the aliens had never seen before. A crew that considered death in battle to be the highest honor a human could achieve. "Admiral," Han reported, his voice steady despite the exhaustion that showed on his face. "My deep strike fleet is ready. 50 ships, all volunteers, all equipped for one-way missions. We know we're not coming back, but we'll make sure the aliens remember us." Admiral Park nodded. Around Earth, the space battle continued to rage. War Marshal Velthar's fleet had been reduced to less than 100,000 ships, but they still outnumbered the human forces. However, the Admiral had realized something important. She did not need to win the battle around Earth. She needed to win the war across the galaxy. "Captain Han, your mission is simple," she said. "Take your ships deep into alien space. Find their homeworlds, their supply bases, their civilian populations. Show them what happens when you attack a species that has nothing left to lose." Han saluted. "It will be done, Admiral. We'll teach them that humans don't just defend their homes. We hunt down anyone who threatens our families." While the main battle continued around Earth, Han's fleet slipped away into deep space. Their ships were painted black and carried no identification. They were ghosts in the darkness, carrying death to worlds that had never known war. The first target was a Zephyrian supply depot in the Antares system. Commander Namsu Kang led the attack with 12 ships that had been modified for maximum destruction rather than survival. His vessels carried nuclear weapons, chemical bombs, and something new: biological agents designed to make planets uninhabitable for decades. "Remember," Kang told his crews as they approached the target, "we're not just attacking military installations. We're sending a message. Anyone who supports the war against humanity pays the price." The supply depot was defended by only a few patrol ships. The Zephyrians had never imagined that humans would dare to attack so deep in Council space. When Kang's ships appeared, the alien defenders barely had time to send a distress signal before they were destroyed. But Kang did not stop with military targets. His ships bombarded the nearby civilian settlements, the mining stations, the orbital farms that fed 3 different star systems. When he was finished, the Antares system was a graveyard of twisted metal and poisoned worlds. The message he left behind was broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Commander Kang of the Human Deep Strike Fleet. You brought war to our children. Now we bring war to yours. This is only the beginning." On the other side of alien space, Captain Yu Ra-song had discovered something that made her smile with cold satisfaction. The Chronari home system had a sun that was old and unstable. With the right push, that star could be turned into a weapon that would destroy everything within 50 light years. "Are you sure this will work?" asked her chief engineer, Lieutenant Park Kyung-min. "The physics are sound," Yura replied, checking her calculations one more time. "We fire our stellar manipulation devices into the star's core, destabilize the fusion reaction, and step back. The resulting supernova will be visible from Earth." "And the civilian population?" Kyung-min asked quietly. Yura looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death in the past year. "They should have thought about civilians before they attacked our colonies. How many human children died at Kepler Prime? How many families were destroyed when they bombarded New Geneva? The attack on the Chronari sun took 6 hours. Yura's ships fired specialized weapons into the star's core while enemy fleets desperately tried to stop them. Half her ships were destroyed, but the mission succeeded. The star began to collapse, and within days it would explode with the force of 1 billion hydrogen bombs. The evacuation of the Chronari home system was chaos. Billions of aliens fled in ships that had never been designed for mass transportation. Many did not escape in time. The proud warrior race that had conquered 17 civilizations watched their home star die and take their ancient civilization with it. But the humans were not finished. Major Junho Lim commanded the Rangers, elite soldiers who specialized in ground operations. His mission was different from the fleet actions. He was to make alien worlds afraid of the dark. Lim's Rangers landed on Velkoth Prime in the middle of the night. They moved like shadows through the alien cities, striking targets that had nothing to do with the military. Power plants exploded. Water treatment facilities were poisoned. Communication centers were destroyed with bombs that would continue exploding for months. The Velkoth were a peaceful species that had never known real war. When the Rangers finished their work and vanished into the night, they left behind a world that would be uninhabitable for generations. The message was clear: Support the war against humanity and your entire civilization pays the price. Commander Bo Young Shin had perhaps the strangest mission of all. Her ship, the UES Nightmare, was equipped not with weapons but with powerful transmitters. Her job was to broadcast human culture across alien communication networks. "Are we ready to begin transmission?" she asked her communications officer. "Ready, Commander. We've hacked into their main broadcast network. Every alien world in the Council will receive our signal. Then let's show them what humans are really like," Shin said with a grin. The broadcast began with human music, war songs, battle hymns, and marching music that celebrated violence and death with cheerful melodies and upbeat rhythms. The aliens were horrified to discover that humans had thousands of songs about war, and that they sang them at parties and celebrations. But the music was just the beginning. The humans broadcast their movies, their books, their art, all of it celebrating war, violence, and the destruction of enemies. The aliens watched in growing terror as they realized that humans did not just fight wars. They enjoyed them. One particular song became infamous across alien space, a cheerful tune about nuclear weapons that human children sang while playing games. The aliens could not understand how a species could teach their young to celebrate weapons of mass destruction. The psychological warfare was devastating. Alien populations that had supported the war began to question their leaders. If humans were so happy about fighting, if they celebrated death and destruction, what kind of monsters were they really facing? On 12 different alien worlds, governments began to fall as their people demanded an end to the war with humanity. The species that had ruled the galaxy through fear found themselves afraid for the first time in centuries. War Marshal Velthar received the reports from across Council space with growing despair. His fleet around Earth was still fighting, but the war was being lost on 100 other battlefields. Human ships appeared everywhere, striking without warning and disappearing before his forces could respond. "Sir," his aide reported with a shaking voice, "we've lost contact with 17 star systems. The Zephyrian Antares sector is completely destroyed. The Krenari home sun is going supernova. The Velkoth are reporting that their main world is uninhabitable." Velthar closed his eyes and felt the weight of centuries pressing down on him. He had thought he was fighting a simple war of conquest. Instead, he had unleashed something that the galaxy had never seen before, a species that treated war not as politics by other means, but as an art form to be perfected through practice. "What do the humans want?" he asked quietly. "Unknown, sir. They're not negotiating. They're not demanding surrender. They're just destroying everything we've built." Velthar opened his eyes and looked at the tactical display showing the battle around Earth. His fleet still outnumbered the humans, but he finally understood the truth. Numbers did not matter when fighting an enemy that measured victory not by what they gained, but by what they took away from their enemies. The humans had turned war itself into a weapon, and they were using it to reshape the galaxy according to their will. The proud council that had ruled for millennia was being dismantled piece by piece by a species that had learned to love destruction. In her command center on Earth, Admiral Park received the latest reports from her deep strike fleets with grim satisfaction. The aliens had brought war to humanity's door. Now they were learning what it meant to fight a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of killing. "Admiral," her intelligence officer reported, "we're detecting massive refugee movements across Council space. Their civilian populations are fleeing toward the Galactic Rim. Some of their governments are collapsing." "Good," Admiral Park replied coldly. "Let them run. Let them remember this feeling every time they look at the stars. Let them teach their children what happens when you threaten humanity." The war was far from over, but the tide had turned. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same again.